Jim Harbaugh. Wow. Can everyone give him a round of applause, please? Great job to Jim Harbaugh for finally becoming a national champion in college football. This is Sports Guy talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Michigan dominating Washington in the national championship game by the score of 34-13. Michigan's defense suffocated Washington's offense all night long as the old saying of defense wins championships came into full effect. Michigan running back Blake Corum dominated on offense as he ran for 134 yards off of 21 carries. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with the topic question. So here it is. What is your reaction to Michigan dominating Washington by the score of 34-13? Honestly, I am not even surprised by the way how the game played out. However, I was surprised by the amount of confidence that fans had in Washington winning. When I previewed this matchup between Washington and Michigan in the national championship game, I said Michigan's defense was going to be suffocating. Well, that's exactly what happened because Michigan's defense was hitting Michael Penix Jr. all night long. I guarantee you that Michael Penix Jr. last night was getting hit more often than he did the entire season beforehand. Michael Penix Jr. got pressured like never before, and obviously when you're a quarterback that gets protected as well as he does, and then you receive the pressure that he gets in one game, well, he's definitely going to struggle. Michael Penix Jr. missed some passes that he normally would have hit. Michael Penix only threw for 255 yards. He only had a touchdown on the night. He did a lot of checking down the football. He threw 2 interceptions. He did not play great in the national championship game. In fact, based on that national championship tape alone, Michael Penix Jr. may have just played himself out of being a first-round draft pick. Michael Penix Jr. did not look like he belonged on an NFL field. Michael Penix Jr. made a lot of mistakes. He missed a lot of wide-open throws. I'm not saying Michael Penix Jr. is a bad quarterback because he certainly isn't. In fact, Michael Penix is actually really good, and there's a reason why Michael Penix is going to be a future NFL quarterback. But obviously, you look at Michael Penix last night and you're thinking, wow, he made a lot of mistakes. He missed a lot of throws. And obviously, if you're Jim Harbaugh, you have to be thrilled with how Michigan played the entire season. For Jim Harbaugh's team to overcome not 1 but 2 suspensions from Jim Harbaugh, very impressive to see. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh, he had to deal with multiple scandals. Some of it was overblown, some of it might not have been overblown, but the fact of the matter is Michigan was able to overcome those adversities and those obstacles, and they were still able to win football games. And JJ McCarthy did not play great at the quarterback position. They say that quarterback is the most important position in all of sports. Well, that wasn't the case for Michigan last night. JJ McCarthy threw for a pedestrian 140 yards. 41 of those yards came off of one play to Colston Loveland, their tight end. Other than that, JJ McCarthy really didn't have any impact on the game whatsoever. But the important thing is that JJ McCarthy did not throw any interceptions. Matter of fact, he didn't even fumble the football, so he actually had no turnovers on the night. He also had a 22-yard run, so JJ McCarthy contributed in the run game. I thought JJ McCarthy did a great job managing the game, and a lot of people give flack to game managers, but in this case, I accept the term game manager because a game manager just led Michigan to a national championship, and JJ McCarthy, he is going to be a future first-round pick in the NFL draft, or at least he should be, because the guy is just a flat-out winner. He might make a lot of mistakes, but when it comes time to make plays in big moments, that's exactly what he is built for. You look at how JJ McCarthy, he was struggling the first 3 quarters, but then in the 4th quarter, while up by 7, they needed a drive to put away Washington. And what did JJ McCarthy do? He threw a 41-yard dime to Colston Loveland that puts Michigan in scoring position. You look at how the running game just dominated for Michigan. They ran for 303 yards. Blake Corum, he had 134 yards off of 21 carries. He scored 2 touchdowns. He had multiple explosive runs. He was able to wear down the Washington defensive line. Of course, you look at Donovan Edwards. He didn't get a lot of touches in the game, but that's okay because when Donovan Edwards had his touches, he made those plays count. He had 6 carries, 104 yards, 2 touchdowns. Obviously, you look at the 2 running backs that Michigan has, and you have to say, wow, they are special on that front because Blake Corum was able to just flat out wear down the Washington defensive line. And when you have a running back that can just wear down a defensive line, especially in today's football, that is very impressive to see, and they're not going to be conditioned to stop that kind of running game. Obviously, you look at how Michigan, they were the tougher team. I said Michigan was going to be too physical for Washington to keep up, and guess what happened? Michigan was too physical for Washington to keep up, especially on both sides of the line. You look at Michigan's offensive line, they dominated. You look at Michigan's defensive line, they dominated. You look at Michigan's secondary, sure, they might have had a couple of busted coverages, but for the most part, they did their job. At least they weren't Texas. A lot of people were telling me, oh, Washington was going to beat Michigan because their offense was too explosive. But nope, you remember the saying defense wins championships? Well, that came back into full effect. This is why they say defense wins championships, because in big games, what do referees like to do? They like to swallow that whistle, and they just like to let plays play out, and that's exactly what happened. Michigan did not get flagged a ton throughout the game. The referees let these guys play, and what happened? Michael Penix Jr. was getting beat up all night long. You look at Washington's run game, Dylan Johnson, 11 carries, 33 yards. He obviously wasn't himself. He had a lower leg injury, and you could tell it clearly impacted his ability to run the football. He really was a non-factor in the game. You look at the receiving game, they had Odunze. He had 5 catches, 87 yards. He did get that explosive play that Washington was looking for, but they only had one explosive play in the passing game. He did catch a 44-yard pass. Unfortunately for Michael Penix in Washington, that was by far the longest completion he had all night long. And then, of course, they had to keep using their tight end, Jack Westover. 5 catches, 42 yards. Obviously, Washington, they don't mind using the tight end, but that's not a big part of their offense. They want to throw it to the receivers in space, and Michigan did a great job containing those guys in space. So obviously, you look at what Washington was able to do offensively, and they were just quite frankly not able to do much of anything. And they always say that whenever you play well on offense, you got to run the football effectively. Well, Washington only ran for 46 yards off of 20 carries. You look at Michigan's rushing offense, 303 yards off of 38 carries. You tell me which team was the tougher team. And whenever a team plays much tougher than the other team, they're obviously going to win in blowout fashion. I said Michigan was going to beat Washington by 14 points because Michigan would score a late touchdown to pull away. Well, they ended up winning by 21 points, and they scored a late touchdown to make it a 3-score game. So I was almost right with how the game played out. I'm honestly not even surprised with how the game played out whatsoever, because I knew Michigan had the more physical team. I knew Michigan was the tougher team. I knew Michigan was going to wear down Washington, and that they were not conditioned to stop a physical team like Michigan. As far as the real reason why Jim Harbaugh won a national championship at Michigan, it all bodes back to what happened 3 years ago. Obviously, you guys remember the COVID season where Michigan had a losing season. Everybody wanted Jim Harbaugh to get fired at Michigan, but Jim Harbaugh, instead of getting fired, he accepts a pay cut in order to stay at Michigan, and then he revamps the whole program. He fires the defensive coordinator. He revamps the entire coaching staff, and he instills in a new culture where they were going to focus on effort, attitude, and toughness, and they've done nothing but get after the football and be tougher than every single opponent. That's why they win almost every single game the last 3 years. The fact of the matter is Michigan has been extremely successful, and Jim Harbaugh has played a big reason for that. The real reason why Michigan won that national championship was because of their toughness. Nobody can coach toughness the way Michigan does, and you can't train to stop toughness the way Michigan does, because the way that Michigan plays football, that is not something that can be learned. That is something that you either have it or you don't. And Michigan recruited guys that had toughness inside of them. You look at J.J. McCarthy, tough quarterback. You look at Blake Corum, tough running back. You look at the entire Michigan offensive line, they're very tough. They're probably the most physical team in the country when it comes to their offensive line. But then you look at the defensive line for Michigan, they're tough. They get after the passer. They were able to overwhelm Washington's offensive line. And when you have a defensive line that can just hit the quarterback every single play while they fail to develop a running game because you're so good at stopping the running game, well, that's going to bode problems all night long. It's not even like Junior Colston, their linebacker, had a great game either. He's their superstar linebacker, but Junior Colston did what he was supposed to do in terms of gap integrity and keeping the run game from being a major factor in the game. You look at how Michigan, they were able to control the trenches on both sides of the ball. You look at how defensively they did their job. You look at how their running game, they did their job offensively. And J.J. McCarthy, even though he did not do anything special, hey, he didn't make any game-changing mistakes. So you got to give J.J. McCarthy a ton of credit for that. I've been very impressed with what Michigan has been building for the last 3 years. I said Michigan will win every game this year. I've predicted Michigan to win every game on this channel. And guess what happened? Michigan proved me right. Congrats to Jim Harbaugh. Congrats to Michigan. I'm glad they proved their haters wrong. A lot of people wanted to doubt them all year long, but they got the job done, and that's what matters. Obviously, Michael Penix Jr., he is probably not going to be a first-round draft pick after that performance in the national championship game, but who knows? Maybe you just say he was just playing against a really good Michigan defense. But that's the thing, though. When you play against NFL caliber defenses, you're going to play against defenses like Michigan week in and week out. So who knows what's going to happen with Michael Penix Jr. As for J.J. McCarthy, good job to being a national champion, but you're going to have to do more than just manage the game at the collegiate level in order to be successful at the NFL level, because right now it doesn't look like J.J. McCarthy is going to be a top 5 pick. Well, who knows? Maybe I could be wrong on that front. Maybe he has a much better arm than what I'm anticipating, because J.J. McCarthy was essentially the Jimmy G of college football. You look at how he just managed the game for Michigan. He didn't make any stupid mistakes, but hey, guess what? When you play that style of football, that can lead you to win a national championship. So that is why I was impressed, although certainly not surprised in terms of the dominance Michigan displayed against Washington, as they won by the score score 34-13. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That'll be for the @Dustin Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @Dustin and at Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @Dustin Tran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.